What's up, guys? Today we're going to make a simple checkpoint system for a 2D platformer in Godot 4. All right. So to start with, we need a way to kill our player. So we've got this pit over here, and we need to add a death zone so that when he falls in the pit, he dies. So to do that, we'll go ahead and add an area 2D. And we will call this death zone. And then underneath there, we need a collision shape 2D. And for this, we will come over to our inspector. Under shape, we'll grab rectangle. And then we can just sort of stretch it out like that and drop it down there. Now we need a little script here for our death zone. So we'll just click this little icon right here to add a script. We'll make sure this goes into our scripts folder and create. Now we need a function to call when our player gets killed. So head over here to node. We want to make sure that we have death zone selected. We can do body entered, connecting from death zone, and connect. That's going to give us this onBody entered function. Now we want to make sure that our player is in a group. So if we come back over to our player and go to groups, you'll see I've got player in a global group. If you don't have this, just click the plus sign. You can call your group player, click off global, then OK, and you're good to go. So back to our death zone script here, we will say if body is in group player. This is going to tell us that it was our player that triggered it. We'll call the function kill player. And then we need to set up this function kill player, and we will leave it blank for right now. So the next step here is to pop over to our scene. I think we want to put a checkpoint right here. So let's go ahead and create a new scene. We'll go other node. We'll call this an area 2D. We'll name it checkpoint. Add a child node to that of a collision shape 2D. And again, we will go to our inspector, select our rectangle, and let's just make this, kind of like that so the player can pass through it. Last thing we need to do is to add a marker 2D. And this is really similar to the portal tutorial that I did. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. And we will call this respawn point. And we'll just go ahead and drag this over here so that our player will respawn a little bit past the checkpoint. You can go ahead and save this, and we'll save it as checkpoint in our scenes folder. Now we need to add a script to this as well. And we'll make sure that we put that in our scripts folder. And we'll call it checkpoint. So again, we want to register the collision when the player collides with this. So we'll come over to node, make sure we click on checkpoint and body entered. So if body is in group player, and what do we want to do? We'll hit pass for right now so we don't get an error. And so here we're going to want to set this to the player's last known location. And for this, we want to hop back over to our scene, and we're going to create a new node. And this can just be a regular node. And we'll call this checkpoint manager. And our checkpoint manager is going to need a script. So we will add a script to our scripts folder, open and create. And this is going to need a couple things. This is going to need a variable for last location and a variable for player. And then for our ready function here, we want to set, actually we need to grab the player first. And because this is the same level as our player, we need to go up one. We'll say get parent, get node, player. And then we need to set last location equal to player dot global position. So this should give us the world space position of our player and set our last location when the scene loads. So now our checkpoint manager knows if the player falls into a pit and dies before they've hit a checkpoint, just take them back to the origin point where they spawned. So now in our checkpoint script, we're going to need to get our checkpoint manager. And we can do that in our ready function here, where we can say checkpoint manager equals, and we know this is level right above our checkpoint in our map. So we're going to put the checkpoints in the checkpoint manager. So we want to go up 1, up 2. So that's going to be get parent, get node. And then we're going to say checkpoint manager. So if our body enters our checkpoint, we want to set our checkpoint manager dot last location equal to the respawn point's global position. So now when our player goes through our checkpoint, we're going to set the last location to whatever the respawn point to that checkpoint is. So let's go ahead and drop our checkpoint into our scene here. And we can move it right here. And what this will do is when our player goes through the checkpoint, you can kind of see the respawn point right here. It'll set his last location to that so that when he dies, he'll go back there. Go ahead and save. And then in our death zone script for kill player, right, we're going to need to, again, we're going to need to grab our checkpoint manager code. So we can just copy and paste from over here in our checkpoint, because we need the same thing. So we'll grab this and we'll paste this in our ready function. So now we have access to our checkpoint manager, right? We're also going to need access to our player, which was right here. So we're just copying this over into our death zone so we have access to everything we need. And then when you kill the player, we're going to set player dot position equals checkpoint manager dot last location. Now one thing to realize here is that our death zone and our checkpoint are not at the same level. So we should be able to get rid of this dot get parent and only have the one there. And that should work. All right, let's test it out and see if we get any errors. And no errors. Awesome. I love it. So there you go. So when we fall into the death zone, it's going to respawn us right here because we passed through the checkpoint. And you could easily add a sprite to your checkpoint if you wanted it to be visible, maybe trigger an animation when the player runs through it. But that's the basics of how you set up a checkpoint in Godot 4. Thanks for watching, guys.